Welcome, and thank you for attending today's presentation on school bus signal priority. ITS Georgia is excited to host this presentation on a promising new application of connected vehicle technology. The pilot project for this, which occurred in Alpharetta, was awarded in 2022 our Best of ITS Georgia Award for the ITS Large Project of Significance. So we're really excited to dig a little bit deeper into this project. Thank you to Utilicom for sponsoring today's event. We'll give you all a moment to speak here in a few moments here. And of course, thank you to Caryn Vorster from Applied Information and Poonam Patel from Kimley Horn for joining us today to share this information with us. Before we get into the presentation, my name is Tom Glickert with Kimley Horn. I'm the ITS Georgia president, and I'm thrilled, you can hear it in my voice, right? I'm thrilled to share this information with you. First and foremost, our organization does not exist without a group of dedicated volunteers. We've sent out our call for volunteers for 2023, and we'll be reaching out again in a week here and then in March. For a final time, please consider supporting ITS Georgia and helping influence the future of ITS in the state. And be sure to pass the volunteer opportunities off to your partners who may not be on our mailing list yet, or your partners who may be younger and just have more time on their hands. Our members are equally important to our organization's success. 2023 membership is live, and I'll give the mic to Troy Galloway with Arcadis to provide an update.
Hey everybody, so far this year we have 43 people that have signed up for membership. I've sent out a couple emails, so if you've seen that or you know that your company has not signed up, this is the last month that you'll be considered a member from 2022. So in March, you will now be a non-member. You'll have to pay the extra fees. So let me know. Shoot me an email at troy.galloway@Arcadis or membership@itsgeorgia.org. That's it. Perfect. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so, Troy. Thank you very much. We have some exciting content planned for this year. Emily Dwyer with GDOT, Mary Thumati with SCI, and Farrah Glasgow with Utilicom are leading our program committee. In March 22nd, we'll have a few folks coming in from Alabama DOT to talk about some grant opportunities that they've pursued and won. And then in April, we have some folks coming in from North Carolina to talk about the Work Zone Data Exchange program that they're a part of. So some cool content from out of state especially, so some things we may not have heard before. Look forward to seeing you all at our March and April meetings. ITS Georgia is committed to growing the engineering community in Georgia. As such, we'll be providing regular updates and sharing news from STEM communities throughout the state. If you have any updates you would like us to share on your behalf, please reach out to me at president@itsga.org. Two announcements about some upcoming STEM activities through communities that we've partnered with before. One is for Science ATL, who is dedicated to supporting the K-12 STEM community in the Atlanta metro area. They have the 2023 Atlanta Science Festival occurring throughout the month of March and are still looking for volunteers to participate. If you have time, head over to scienceatl.org for some more information, or if you'd like to attend any of their events. I went to a few last year. They're very cool events, especially if you have some kids who are looking to get into the STEM fields. Additionally, ACEC will be hosting their annual Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day at KSU on April 15th. I know many of you already participate in this event, and I encourage you to continue your support or investigate getting your company involved with it this year. ITS Georgia plans to have a booth there, and we're going to be doing traffic signals, so everybody back off on the traffic signal topics. We got it handled. ITS Georgia stays involved and engaged with ACEC and the legislative community in the state. So I'll pass it off to Matt Glasser with Arcadis for an update from our legislative committee.
Taped it on. Thanks, Tom. So high level, for those of you that have been tracking the electric vehicle rollout in Georgia, the recommendations that came from the Senate Study Committee in December. So a bunch of those recommendations as individual pieces of legislation have been introduced. Most notably is a change in the way that taxes are generated from that, specifically that there would be a per tax or a per kilowatt hour tax added. So if you go to a gas station or a Kroger or whatever to charge your vehicle, they would start charging you that way rather than per minute. Separately, I had mentioned previously that there were several tort reform updates coming through. Those have been introduced in both the House and the Senate. And some of those topics include seatbelt usage, getting hurt on third-party property, or third-party getting hurt on your property, probably particularly of interest to the government there. And then the final piece, probably more important for the private sector side, is to make sure that CEOs from your corporate offices across the pond don't get called in for testifying on a project. So those are going through as we speak. We'll keep you guys updated. And the last bit is just a piece of transparency, is that ITS Georgia is updating its bylaws, or is working on proposed updates to our bylaws that will be rolling out over the summer. If you're interested in helping us in that process, please let me know, but we'll have more information to come. Thanks.
Hey, Matt. We at ITS Georgia are prepping our brackets for March Madness, and assuming most of you guys are as well, we're going to be hosting a March Madison. Madison is our social chair who's coordinating this, so it's very hard for me to not say March Madison. We'll be hosting a March Madness tournament this year with some cool ITS Georgia prizes and likely a watch party at the beginning of the tournament. So join us for some fun, compete against your peers across the industry, and then more information to come from Madison, Dormighty with AECom in the next couple of weeks. If you're planning on attending the ITS America Conference in Texas this year in April, please know that ITS Georgia will be being recognized for our 2021 Outstanding State Chapter Award. I've just heard that this presentation will be occurring on April 26th at 5 p.m. I don't have a location for you, just a date and time, so just wander around Texas until you find us. When we have that information, we'll share it with you, and anybody who's at that event, we'd love to gather and see y'all there who are part of our community. And then on to the 2023 annual meeting. I'll hand it over to Holly with KCI to give us an update. And I won't move, I'll just stand right here.
Stare at me awkwardly. Hey everyone, so the conference is the 24th to the 26th of September. Currently we have a call for papers out. If you guys want to present or know anybody who wants to present, please email myself, holly.painter@kci.com, or annualconference@itsgeorgia.org. Information is all up on the website, but we also have a call for sponsorship and a call for volunteers, and then registration and exhibits should be open probably around April, end of March or April. But if you guys have any questions, just email me, and please sign up to speak, because I need speakers. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Holly. And we've been reviewing some of our Jekyll Island paperwork recently, and I keep on stumbling across different pictures of the West End Hotel that we're staying at and the different venues that we're going to be at, and it's gorgeous, and hopefully some gorgeous Georgia autumn days. So we hope to see y'all down there. And then before we get into our content today, I'm pleased to hand it off to Meredith with High Vision, who's going to present on behalf of Utilicom, our sponsor today. Meredith, and then move the clicker here.
Okay, perfect. Hey everyone, how you doing? There's certainly more of you than I expected, so I'll try not to be too nervous and get through this next 5 minutes gracefully, right? So I work with High Vision. We are a technology company, and we partner a lot of the time with Utilicom to provide technology or transportation management systems. So I have a few slides, nothing too heavy, but we are a worldwide organization that primarily does mission critical control rooms. So we would be the brains of the wall in those traffic management centers. So we do a lot of other turnkey services in different environments for public safety, but for this group of people, traffic management centers and maybe other things like traffic authorities. Last year we completed Metra in Chicago. So, anything traffic related where you're really doing like a mission control room. Those are other public safety applications. And then other just, a nice shot of a traffic management center. We have some local customers nearby that we did with Utilicom. Paulding County, Sandy Springs, and we've also done we haven't done Cobb County yet, but I'm working on it, Yancey. I'm working on it. I think that's all I have. So if at any point you guys want to talk about your traffic management center and get that a little more future-proofed, please reach out to Utilicom, and we'd be happy to have you into our Experience Center, which is located by Sweetwater Brewery, right off of Otley Drive. So nice talking to you folks.
Thank you, Meredith, and High Vision, and of course, thank you to Utilicom for the continued support throughout the years. So with that, on to our presentation. I'm going to hand it off to Mary Thumati with SEI, who's going to introduce our guest speakers and moderate our presentation today.
Thanks, Tom. So I'm going to introduce our two speakers, and they have a little write-up for you. So I should hold up the mic so you guys can actually hear me. All right, so we have Poonam Patel. She has been an engineer working for Kimley Horn in the Atlanta Midtown office for the last 3 years. She has worked on a variety of projects, including signal timing through the SIGOPS programs, VISTA modeling for private developers, multimodal traffic studies for cities, and ITS planning through the ITS for Us program. Caryn Vorster with Applied Information is the Director of Communications and Technical Writing, has been working at Applied Information for 4 years. After receiving her mechanical engineering degree at the University of Cape Town, she began working in the South African office. In 2021, she relocated to the AI headquarters in Alpharetta, Georgia. During this time, she has been involved in a number of traffic safety, advanced mobility, connected vehicle, and smart city projects throughout the U.S. and Canada. Projects include the implementation of smart school beacons, emergency vehicle preemption, transit signal priority, connected vehicle to everything, among others, as well as managing efforts in the integration of connected vehicles alerts with the Waze navigation app. So to kind of speak toward our presentation and to have what they're speaking of, so parents across the nation trust school bus drivers to transport their children daily for an estimated 52 million trips daily. While school buses are a safer mode of transportation than passenger vehicles, traffic intersections are still the most dangerous part of any school bus driver's route. Through a private sector partnership, the Fulton County school systems participated in a pilot program that explored the benefits of deploying school bus safety priority along their bus routes. The goal of this pilot program was to improve safety and mobility for school bus drivers and students by developing cutting-edge connected vehicle technology, onboard units, and field monitoring units in the city of Alpharetta. The results of this program were assessed using several qualitative and quantitative metrics. And with that, I will pass it over to Poonam and Caryn. Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone for joining us for this little session today. My name is Caryn Vorster, as you heard, and with me is Poonam Patel. I feel like we really had a great introduction already, so I'm not going to go through the introduction that I had planned. But looking into the why and the details behind how this project came about, school buses make up the largest transit fleet in the United States, with approximately 500,000 school buses on our roads today. Currently, it's a very underutilized service, although it is a free service for public schools. It's often noted for having perceived poor timeliness. In addition, poor traffic signal timing can have a large effect on school buses due to how heavy the school bus is and the slow start-up times of the school bus. Also, pickup and drop-off times occur during major commuting times. And students account for approximately 25% of daily commuter trips. All of this and more as well led us to ask the question of, can we improve the mobility of students by giving school buses green lights? This program led to a really successful collaboration between the public and private sector, where it was a privately funded program led by Applied Information, with the goal of understanding the real-world benefits associated with giving school buses green lights. And Kimley Horn was the independent consulting company that assisted in the data analysis and reporting of this program. And we also had a number of other key project partners involved in the success of this project, namely Metro Traffics, who assisted with the configuration and timing of the traffic signals, Hem Data, who assisted with the data collection and data analysis, Temple for their local support and installation services, City of Alpharetta, who'd already deployed a lot of connected vehicle technology, namely Applied Information's emergency vehicle technology, and Fulton County Schools, where the bus routes were, we used the Fulton County School bus routes and the Fulton County School buses. This included IC buses and Bluebird buses. The project was located in the city of Alpharetta, which is a growing suburb within the state of Georgia, and it's known for a large student presence. It was really the perfect location for this project because it's home to Applied Information's testing lab, the IATL, and they had already outfitted all 125 of their intersections with Applied Information's emergency vehicle preemption technology. So what this meant is that we could use the existing hardware and rather just update the traffic signals to allow for school bus priority. A little bit of an overview of this is that we had devices installed in the school bus which communicated the school bus priority messages over the cloud to the traffic intersection. And for this project, we wanted to do a before and after analysis, which would look into if there were any benefits associated with giving school buses green lights, namely if there was a reduction in fuel consumption, reductions in emissions, and on-time performance, and if there was a reduction in the travel time of the school buses. As you can see up on the screen here, this is all of the intersections that were outfitted with school bus priority. And these were all on the different school bus routes within the city of Alpharetta. There were 3 bus routes that we monitored, which was a elementary, middle, and high school. There were 62 intersections along these routes, which were configured for school bus priority. And the school buses that were outfitted were a IC diesel-powered school bus and a Bluebird propane-powered school bus. The next slide here, what's more of a video, it gives you a real-life demonstration of what it looks like in the field for the school bus to get green lights. And while we're watching, I'm just going to hand this over to Poonam.
So Kimley Horn did the before and after analysis as part of this program. Due to the time constraints of this program, I believe we started in about March, and we wanted to finish this out by the end of this spring semester. We had about a month of before data and a month of after data. We used 4 different data sources. So we had one automatic vehicle location data logger and one data logger that the Fulton County school system already had. That data that we collected had things like latitude and longitude, average speed, fuel consumption, and others. We used both of those data loggers to look at travel time, average speed, unscheduled stops, fuel consumption, and emissions in order to supplement our analysis metrics. We also use the school bus fuel logs, and in order to collect some qualitative data, we interviewed both of the bus drivers for both the IC bus and the Bluebird bus. So we put all of that data into a map like this. The way that we looked at our analysis was in 3 segments. So if we use the AM Elementary example on the left, the first segment started at the bus yard and went to the first pickup, which is at 231 Jane Ellen Way. So that was, as you can see, they're interacting with about 4 intersections that were outfitted with the FMUs. And then the gray portion represents the first pickup to the last pickup, and we specifically grayed out that segment because the bus was on a fixed schedule. The students were expecting the bus to come at a certain time and not any earlier, so that was not included in our quantitative results. And then we were able to see improvements in operations for that last pickup to the school. There was also the parking brake activations, as I mentioned, that was part of the data that we collected. That was a good way for us to look at the difference between the unscheduled and scheduled stops. By law, Georgia school bus drivers are required to activate the parking brake when they're picking up and dropping off students. And then if we go to the next slide. So here were our quantitative results by bus and and an average for the program summary. So the biggest one to note would be the 20% improvement in speed. That's, to be fair, that is not as fast as you think it is. 20% is a large percentage, but these buses were typically traveling at about 20 miles per hour, so that increases really only to 24 to 25 miles per hour, so they can get where they're going much quicker. You can also see that the travel time improvements were about 13% for the program. We also took a look at the miles per gallon and the fuel consumption/emissions, and we see a 13% improvement for the diesel bus in miles per gallon. Some of the lessons that we learned from this pilot program were that it's important to use multiple data sources. We noticed that with we were able to supplement AVL data with the Fulton County school system data logger, but moving forward, it would be beneficial to have more than one AVL data logger because sometimes there's poor connection. We aren't able to get completely accurate data. We also want to keep in mind that there are many different transportation users in a network: pedestrians, bicyclists, other transit vehicles, and passenger vehicles. So it's important to understand what level of priority is needed for the system that you're implementing in. Something that we considered for future projects is, instead of providing priority throughout the entire route, providing priority at a select number of intersections that have high congestion, and then outfitting more buses with OBU, so more buses are getting priority through intersections that they experience more delay in. Due to the time constraints, we were only able to do 1 month of before data and 1 month of after data, but moving forward, 2 to 3 months of data would produce more accurate results. We noticed some volatility in quantifying small results. You saw in unscheduled stops that there was a 40% reduction in the number of stops, but that during those periods showed maybe 5 unscheduled stops in the before period, and then that reduced to 3. So although it's a 40%, you have to look at those results relatively. And defining unscheduled stops, it wasn't as cut and dry as you would have imagined. We had to figure out a method for determining unscheduled stops, instead of just assuming that a stop happens whenever the bus hits 0 miles per hour. Sometimes there's some fluctuation with the data, so making sure that that 0 or that low average speed remains low for a certain period of time.
For those of you who know applied information, you know it won't be an applied information presentation without a video. So I'm going to be playing you a video from the perspective of Trey Stowe, the Director of Transportation and Operations for Fulton County Schools.
Trey Stowe, Director of Transportation Operations for Fulton County Schools. We operate 930 buses for the whole district, half diesel, half propane. The school bus is the safest mode of transportation. Waiting to get them on and in that loading process, that's where the most danger is still at its highest. We're in an age of distracted driving more than ever. We calculated over 900 violations in one day of running stop arms this past school year with our district alone. We were able to implement and work with City of Alpharetta, Applied, Audi, and all these other different manufacturers to test and see what the future could hold. We worked with them on our stop arm notifications. So anytime the bus comes up, makes a stop to load or unload students, it was sending a signal to the Audi vehicle letting it know that the bus was stopped ahead. And this helps give us control and helps notify other motorists that, hey, there's something you need to be aware. Atlanta traffic is notorious. If you can continue to keep that bus moving, keep it flowing through traffic, and it's not taking those times to stop, that was the key part, getting them priority. So the buses were getting there quicker, and it helps our student delivery, because anytime we have buses rolling in late to a school, that takes away from their learning capabilities. They serve breakfast at the schools, and so a lot of those students that rely on that as their first meal of the day. The quicker you can get the bus there, it gives that child an opportunity to get in there, get into the lunchroom, and actually have that first meal of the day so they can get their day started off correctly. The last thing would be what kind of possible fuel savings there might be. We use roughly around 25,000 gallons a week, $4 a gallon for diesel fuel. We saw quite a bit in reduction of fuel consumption. And so if we, across the fleet or across the implementation, was able to save 10% on that, you're looking at 2,500 gallons there. So you could definitely see a significant savings over a full year. Going forward, if it's something that we can work with the bus manufacturers, we get the auto manufacturers to pick it up as well. And then, of course, your municipalities and your districts and the state as well to have the infrastructure there. But if we get it all together, and if we save one child's life off of it, that should be worth it right there. I know if it was my child, I would definitely want it there. That's the key, is saving lives and saving the lives of our school children.
So as you can see, it's quite a powerful message that we have regarding the results of giving school buses green lights. And as part of the pilot program, we did some qualitative analysis where we interviewed 2 of the bus drivers that were operating the school bus priority system. And they came back with some interesting results, which included better on-time performance. And what that meant was when the school bus drivers were driving the routes, they were a lot less stressed about making sure that they were getting to the school and getting the students to school on time. So they could focus on the road and focus on driver safety. They also reported improved student behavior and just a general safer atmosphere on the bus because there was less opportunity for them, the students, to kind of move around and chat to their buddies while on the school bus. And it also allowed for them to depart the school bus yard a little bit later in the morning and arrive back a little bit earlier. So it gave them a little bit more extra time during the day. Some of the unexpected results from this pilot program, the first one you already heard was about the breakfast program, and this ensures getting school buses to school on time ensures that the students get to the school in time for breakfast, which is often the first meal of the day, and it makes sure that they have the nutrition they need to kickstart the day. It also had the potential to address bus driver shortages because they had additional time, which would potentially, on a larger scale, allow for school buses to do additional routes in the morning. Then another interesting thing that came about from the study was something called average daily attendance, where students are accounted for in the morning, and if they're not there in the morning and not accounted for, that impacts the total funding that they have available for the school. So if they're late and they're not taken for registration, it means that they're not getting the maximum school funding that could be available to them. Moving forward with school bus priority, Kimley Horn and Applied Information have applied for SMART grants, including for the city of Valdosta and the city of Spartanburg. Those results are scheduled to be released in the first quarter of this year, so hopefully really soon we'll find out if we've been selected for that. And we are also looking into further federal grant opportunities. So if anyone is interested in looking into more research based on school bus priority, or if it's something that is of interest to a city, Kimley Horn and Applied Information are very much on board with assisting with that application process. Another very exciting thing is that we have another school bus priority project that's being deployed in California. The customer isn't really willing to share the information just yet, but please do be on the lookout for this public announcement and for the study results, of course. Next up, we have questions. So I don't know if we pass the mic around or how this works. Yes.
As part of your study, I certainly expect improvements to bus metrics and that type of thing. I don't need that, but you can have it.
Okay, fine.
What about the impacts
We need
to
to
the
hear it
traveling
for
public?
the web and live.
What about the impacts to the traveling public as a result of these priority to the school buses? Because obviously they're not traveling at a constant speed. They're stopping and going, and I would expect there to be maybe some negative metrics associated with the commuter traffic.
Okay, so we got this question quite a lot, and it's still something that we're going to be looking into in future studies, so we don't really have a solid answer for that, but that's going to be part of the future studies that we do. One of the things to note is that school buses are a really heavy vehicle, so if they come to a stop and they have to start again, that causes delays for the traffic, for the general public. So if they're constantly moving, that means if you're behind the school bus, you're also constantly moving. And because it's an estimated time of arrival based system, there is that additional time to allow for the signals to change to adjust for that free flowing of the school bus. There's also a certain time period that the priority call cuts off, so as to minimize the delays for the other traffic that is stopped. Does that answer the question? Yes.
Hopefully Yancey to answer this. So I think I heard what you said. We did a test trial a couple of years ago when I was with Temple and partnered with AI. And our first initial test was to go in a full preemption situation with school buses to see if anyone in the general public complained about it, because we could not really move forward with a true data of fact finding on it if we had people complaining about school buses getting green lights. What we found with that, there were 0 complaints from the general public. So no one really even knew it was going on. People just now drive lights. That's what we do. We got so much on our ride. We're just driving the green lights, the red, we're stopping at the red. So that's what we're finding with some of this. Does that kind of also help? So we did a little bit of study initially to see if anybody would actually care with the general public. And we knew we were going to have to shut it down immediately if they even got one complaint. And nobody complained. So that was pretty cool information also.
Thank you for your presentation. I have 2 questions. One is related to his. how congested were those intersections where you implemented the priority? And I guess, let me check. Just a second. And then, do all buses get priority regardless of whether they are on time or behind schedule? Or how do you do it if, for example, the bus is already ahead of schedule? Thanks.
So the buses got priority no matter what period of the schedule they were in. So if they were already 3 minutes ahead, they would still get the green light to add to their time savings. I believe your first question was about, I think like half of them, I want to say like maybe 2/3 of them were congested and about 1/3 weren't. 1/3 were very congested and about 2/3 weren't as much because we were also, entering residential areas. So sometimes they didn't have both heavy mainline and side street traffic. I know that in the interview findings, the bus drivers said that they sometimes would miss their green window because there was so much congestion, but I don't think that that was a common occurrence.
Thank you for taking my question. So for our county in Fulton County, we're slotted for several new schools. Have you considered to target those communities that may be building schools as part of an infrastructure package to where you can implement this into new developed schools and communities going forward?
I'm going to say that we haven't, as far as I know, we haven't considered that yet, but it's definitely something that we could consider and work on going forwards. So yeah, that's a really valid point. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yes.
So, with the onboard units, and I know that there's obviously a lot going on with the connected vehicles. Did you see anything kind of unique about getting an onboard vehicle for buses versus other vehicles you've worked with?
So in terms of if there's a different onboard unit for a school bus versus emergency vehicle versus transit.
Or some data that you're getting from that as
It's all the same hardware that's installed in each of those devices, and we can manipulate the data to form different reports based on what's needed and what you're wanting to look for. So transit signal priority, you'd want to find different information to emergency vehicle preemption. Does that answer? Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions. First of all, about the fuel consumption and emission, how that was measured, especially the emission, the CO2, and was it taken from the onboard unit itself, or I've seen also the fuel logs of the bus. So that was my first question. The second one is related to the 40% of stops. So those were considered 40% reduction in the stops that were caused by the signal itself, or from the entire stops that the bus naturally actually does?
So fuel consumption was already shown in the AVL data logger, and we used the fuel logs to calculate miles per gallon, and then we used an equation from the Energy Information Administration that calculated what gallons to pounds per CO2 were, and so it was a different calculation for diesel. I believe it was like 22.5 pounds per gallon for diesel and then 12 for propane. Your second question was about, I'm so sorry, was it? The stops, yeah, so we excluded the stops that we knew were bus stops and then did our calculation from there.
please go on. Come on. Back to you. Sorry.
Thanks for your presentation. I have one question. Have you seen any complaint regarding school bus arriving ahead of their scheduled time at a stop?
Thanks, guys, for the mic. This makes it so the video and the live stream and all of that works for everyone who is watching virtually. So.
I think I heard you correctly. I think that the vehicles, from the bus driver interviews, they said that other buses and other cars would kind of tag along to the buses that were receiving priority, because they would kind of figure out that if this bus was near a signal, it was going to get the green light, and so a lot of cars and buses started following that one bus. So I'm not sure. Yeah.
So one of the bus drivers actually referred to their bus as the magic school bus, and everyone knew which one was the magic school bus. So they would kind of make sure that they were leaving around the same time as the magic school bus, and they figured out that if some went ahead and some went behind, they'd all get a green light. So that was a pretty fun thing that came out of the project.
Thanks. I have an extra question on the hardware bit of it. So you implemented it on 62 intersections. Did they all have the same controllers, or did you need to upgrade anything as far as the controllers are concerned, or your system could work with any installers already in the field? And then the other question is, if you're triggering the TSP at the same point every time, or because you have the CV advantage, you can trigger the priority at any location, which brings me to the second question of what's your communication like, and what's the frequency of communication with these onboard units?
Okay. I believe the FMUs were compatible with the max time controllers, and they only have a max time software in City of Alpharetta. I'm not sure what type of controllers they have, though. Do you know?
Can you just remind me of the other questions that you had?
So the next one was about if you're implementing it at one point, you're sending the request at one point, or because you have NPL, or you can send it at any point for the intersection.
Okay, so our technology has a configuration utility where you can set up what we call preemption or priority zones, and those are unique to the actual intersection geometry. So if there's usually congestion at a particular intersection, you can make the zone longer so that if it reaches the start of the zone, it has more time for the signal to change ahead of it arriving at the intersection. So it's very dependent on how the city or how the school bus, whoever's operating the school bus priority system wants it to be triggered. And yeah, we can refine it, fine tune it, etc., based on the local intersection geometry.
Then the other one was about the frequency of the communication. How frequent, what's the capability of the frequency of the communication for those onboard units?
It's second by second communication, so yeah. Did I answer all of your questions? I hope I answered everything. Okay. Okay. While I have the mic, I do have a QR code if anyone wants to scan it, where you can get additional information on the project. There's the full project report, the executive summary, and any other additional information you might want to learn more about the project.
Thank you so much, Poonam and Caryn. Tom, is there anything else we need to? All right. Okay, so.
See y'all, and we'll see you in March and
Yep, so if you guys have questions, just let us know, and see you in March. Thanks, everyone.